Move on to Superintendent's report.
Curriculum Advisory Council, no report out at this time. I do foresee Kristen and I wanting to meet with the Advisory Council, hopefully before the new year, if not shortly after New Year. She wanted to discuss a couple options in regards to the building. Facility Advisory Council, Joel is here tonight. I'm going to ask him to step forward and, just review the QBR that is in the board packet, which is a quarterly update on our facilities here. And he'll also touch on the pool and life safety as well, but let's start with the QBR, Joel.
Sure. As Dr. Skinka says, this is kind of a review of the last couple of months of our operation, and I'll try and get through this quickly and just kind of hit the highlights and answer any questions. It starts out with the custodial portion of it and some inspection scores. The scores were good, which they should be for the start of the year. We've had a summer to do some projects and things like that, and the scores kind of reflect that. The second page of it just kind of goes through some of the projects we did over the summer. Just a note there too about some of the sanitizing we do in the district, given the kind of public awareness about Ebola and that kind of stuff. There is some notes in there about the stuff that we use meets the CDC guidelines for effectively cleaning those kinds of surfaces. Moving on to the maintenance report, I did want to make a note here that on the first page of that, where we have some the productivity levels kind of assessment there, there's a typo under the preventive maintenance work orders. That should have read August and September for the number of preventive maintenance work orders there. At the bottom of that page 3 there, there is a note about just kind of what our progress has been on those life safety and facility assessment items that we identified as kind of we incorporated into our routine kind of project work, stuff we do over the summer and when we get breaks and those kinds of things. Spending on, to those, I know that question came up. Right now on materials, we're less than $1,000 on that 143 items. And a lot of that was it was essentially floor tile and things like that. But we're tracking that, and we're also tracking the hours that we spend on it. So we have can kind of take that information and couple it with the facility assessment. The maintenance projects, the pool is we took another step forward this month. They put the 5,000 CFM unit onto the roof of the pool. This essentially serves the spectator area, that mezzanine area where the bleachers are. It was installed. It's operating. It's not completed, however. They're still waiting on a damper assembly, a piece that they had ordered that when they got it there, it was oriented in the wrong way, and they wanted to make sure it was right. So they've ordered that. They're anticipating getting it. They were anticipating getting it today. They didn't, but so probably tomorrow. And that'll be another installation that they'll do, and that'll complete their work, and then we'll test it to ensure that we're where we're supposed to be in terms of the CFMs and that, and that the condition of the air is where it's supposed to be there. In the entryway, with some grant money that Mr. McGinnis identified, we were able to do some upgrades to our security stuff, put some bulletproof glass in that little kiosk where the security guard sits, and Also put some film shield over the glass in the entryway at door A and door G, which are the two main entrances. We had some kitchen equipment installed, and we did a little work. We did the electric work in-house, and then the vendor was paid for some other improvements that needed to be done to install the equipment, which was essentially gas lines and regulators. And that's now, that is now up and running. Just a couple of other items there. Skipping down there to the energy, we finished the interior lighting controls, which is, occupancy sensors in our athletic areas. This was a DCEO project, which we've done before, and to get some essentially ComEd to help us fund some improvements, some efficiency improvements in the lighting in our school here. And this was another one of those, and that's complete. And basically, it keeps the lights on for 15 minutes as long as there's motion in any of those areas, of those athletic areas. And then, if it doesn't detect that, it'll go off. It was, identifying a payback on that. We know what the typical payback on our investment for this one. It would be within the year that they were installed. So, and then we kind of recoup that efficiency going forward.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah,
So you're talking like the East Gym?
yes, correct.
So does that mean no one's gonna turn the lights off ever?
Well, if they don't, they'll go off. The reasoning behind that, Dr. Keene, was in a lot of cases, there'd be an event in the morning, say 6 a.m. or something like that, and the lights, they'd leave the event or go do something. We didn't know if they were gonna come back in that day or whatever. This way they go off and we know they stay off until somebody comes back. Because there were cases like that where they stayed on all day, so that's.
Is there any potential safety issue with this system?
There hasn't been, and I took a tour of several schools that had them in operation already, because that was a concern, and there really isn't. They're pretty effective, and you can override them manually at the switch too.
Okay.
So.
Which means you can also turn them off if you want to answer
That's
your
right.
question.
That's right.
That's the way that one of my office works anyway.
Yeah, right. That's a good point.
Sometimes if you're reading and don't move, they go off.
Right. Well, typically, if you're in a gym, you're moving. Right. If you're in an athletic area, you're likely moving. But yeah, for the conscientious people that shut them off, we saved the 14 minutes or whatever there too. So,
Grounds report?
yeah, grounds report.
That's one other question on one. What was the purpose for the upgrade in the kitchen equipment?
That was for additional capacity for them, for for their food service. I couldn't speak exactly what they were
Tim
to
can
what they were
address
doing
that.
there.
They needed some additional equipment because of the new food service in terms of providing it for District 95 and District 94 that we had.
Did we figure that into the cost when we
Yes.
decided we were gonna do that? Okay.
Yeah.
Can I go back, Joel?
Mhm.
With the lighting too,
Yeah.
since the return on investment was short, or
Yeah.
the time frame, whatever, what about installing it in other areas?
That's a good question. And again, having gone through a few buildings that have them and have tried some different things, they seem to struggle more in, classroom settings it works, individual room settings it works. I've had them, one district I toured had them in bathrooms, but then if somebody goes in a stall and they're in there a long time, there's a potential that, the lights go off when you're in there. Truthfully, the next phase, because we're always looking for the next, opportunity on this stuff, especially with the DCEO providing those incentives, is really throughout our building, mostly we have 32-watt bulbs in all of our fixtures. There's an incentive to reduce to a 25-watt bulb, which is obviously the wattage is down by a quarter or so there, but also too, the change in the actual light is imperceptible. So as right now, we're sitting on a little bit of attic stock from the renovation, so as we burn out bulbs, we use those. But as we get to the point where we run through that attic stock too, that's another consideration, is to start to move to those. And there's DCEO incentives for that as well that make it pretty cost effective. On the grounds report, there is our inspection score, as some of you noted, is a little lower than our other ones. You know, the report, the inspections that we do is kind of reflective of some of conditions beyond just kind of the work. It's also, I'll use it as an example, some of our turf areas, the ones north of our building here, we don't necessarily have control over that. That gets parked on, that gets utilized in other ways. There's other items on there that are maybe reflective of, for example, of things like fencing. We get dinged on that, on fencing. I ding us on that pretty much on every inspection. And it's not that, ultimately the goal is to replace that fencing, but it's what kind of brings the score down a little bit. So it's more reflective of kind of the conditions of kind of, some deterioration on some systemic deterioration kind of things. A crosswalk, we installed a crosswalk from our entrance A to across to the east entrance of the stadium. And ComEd was really helpful with us there. They installed some lighting for us and really worked closely with us and quickly with us to get that put up there to increase reduce the risk of injury to our students there.
Joe, where was that?
Right here.
Yeah.
Right out when you come out of the turn. There's
Right.
a crosswalk and a temporary stop sign in the middle of the road now.
Yeah,
And then there's a light off the pole right by the garage, shooting out onto golf.
right.
On that crosswalk.
One's kind of directed into the east entrance of the stadium, and the other onto the crosswalk. So it's, the other two lights were probably a good 40 yards away from there. So it was a pretty dark area prior
Whose
to
idea was
installing
that?
those. Pardon me?
We had a couple visitors that had talked to us, and then we had talked with the zoo police, because at night, even at 4 or 5 o'clock now in the fall, when it gets dark, and parents are doing pickups, kids would run across the street and you couldn't see them. So we worked with the two municipalities for approval to paint on golf, and Joel and his staff implemented the stop sign and the crosswalk. And then we worked with Brookfield to connect us with their ComEd connection.
Yeah.
And to get us the light installed and just add it to our bill.
Yeah.
And now you have a crosswalk in front of the school. Awesome.
Yeah.
And that one is not successful. You'll die standing there at the corner for cars to stop. And if students are walking in that crosswalk hoping somebody's gonna stop, that's not gonna happen. I've stood there Sunday afternoon and watched cars come out of the zoo. They don't even see it.
Where's this at, Laura?
This is when you, was that Forest in front of the school?
Right.
Golf and Ridge.
It's
The
not,
temporary one at Ridgewood that they did for the construction?
yes, the one,
Yeah.
and you have to use it because you can't cross the street because the
Right.
sidewalks tore apart. Nobody stops for that.
Yeah, there's a crossing guard at dismissal time that helps there. I know.
Out there, not
Yeah.
here.
Right,
When you
right,
point like that,
correct.
they're thinking.
Oh, where am I? Okay, yeah, I know.
Way out there.
Yeah, the one at Ridgewood.
Joel, let's keep moving with
Sorry
our
about
people
that.
report. Anything?
Nothing really significant there, just some anniversaries, some things about our training. And we established a joint safety and security committee within our department that's essentially just to get all of our employees an opportunity to sit in that kind of a forum and be
Any
heard.
questions for Joel?
Yeah, I do,
Yeah.
Okay,
since you took me off the committee. I have to ask him now.
all right.
So what about the sinkhole?
Oh, the sinkhole. That was, we noticed the sinkhole this fall.
Is it out here?
It's between doors E and F along the south face of the building,
Okay, but
just,
where's that?
just west of door G.
Just down from the old main entrance,
Yeah,
Okay.
kind of by the bike racks.
just
All right,
west of that.
got it.
Yeah. And essentially that was, it was something we'd noticed the year before, but it wasn't significant. And this fall, it seemed to have gotten more significant. And we had some, contractors come and look at it. What it appears to have been is there is some drain down there, deep down there. It was about 11 or 12 feet deep. And it was old clay drain, likely from one of the additions in, I want to say the 60s. We couldn't find anything on prints for it. But they repaired it and replaced it with the current PVC stuff and put a clean out in for us. And but it was, it was.
So what was it draining?
We think it's draining a couple of roof drains from off of our roof, and it may have been mixed with some sanitary sewer too.
Okay.
But we're not entirely 100% sure which one it was.
And you talked about the flooding. What room was flooding, you thought?
163. That's the communications room right off at Alumni Lounge there. In one board meeting, we were sucking water out of it when you guys were having a meeting. We identified a couple of roof things and a couple other things, but we still, on occasion, if the rain was significant enough, and which seems to be more frequent lately, but we were getting it backed up. This could have been contributing to that.
That it had nowhere to go.
Yeah, ultimately, it's, the ground would saturate and wear away, but if, it couldn't disperse that kind of volume into the ground that quickly, so it just backed up.
Okay.
Joel, in this day and age, can't you camera the line and know what it was actually doing?
Yeah,
Instead of-
that would, if we had access to that line. We couldn't get it,
'Cause we had a group come out on TV. so-
yeah, we had them try and
They
get
couldn't
to it,
figure
and
it out.
essentially, it was, busted and filled with dirt, so there's limits to that stuff, I guess, yeah. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions for Joel?
One more. In
Yeah.
terms of your winter prep,
Yeah,
what's the condition of the boilers? Is that thing completely fixed?
yeah, the boilers are operating fine. In fact, we just did our tune-up. We have a contractor come in and do a tune-up on them annually, and at the start of the heating season, it finally just kind of got cold enough to be able to do it about a week and a half ago, and yeah, everything is they're operating as they should.
Great.
Thanks, Joel.
Anything else? Okay, thanks, Joel.
You're gonna stay around for when we get to the
Sure.
life safety and capital stuff. Finance. Oh, I'm sorry, I thought the finance report. Finance advisory scheduled to meet November 4th. At that meeting, we'll discuss the preliminary levy. We're gonna arrange some time for PMA to come here. PMA cannot come and speak to the board and do their annual review for us of our financials until we're all done with the audit and AFR. So as soon as we complete that process, at least discussing it with the board and that's submitted, then how we can use that information to plug into the projection system. We'll also be discussing at finance the preliminary enrollment projections and some of those things. So that's November 4th. So we'll be able to report out at the November 11th meeting. And the Policy Advisory Council submitted their changes and stuff that we approved last week to the last press packet. So that is all complete. So there was no policy meetings.
Any questions for Kevin on his superintendent reports?